So here we are, fellas, the Object 704 Tier 9 Russian tank destroyer. One of two Tier 9 Russian tank destroyers, and they're well, not completely different, but mostly they are different. Right, so what we're going to do today, we're going to have a quick look through the line, see what the grind's like, then we'll have a look at the packages, equipment choices, and crew skills, and stuff like that. Right, straight into it then. Let's have a look at the line. Where do these tanks come from? Right, so as I said, two different completely lines. And you see I've not quite got that far on the new line yet. And to be honest, I've hung around on this line way too long. Some of you guys who watched my previous videos may have seen the only other Object 704 video I've put up, which was when I first bought it. The previous tank, the ISU 152, very powerful tank for its tier, but the mobility is rubbish. And I found it so boring, I gave up playing it for a while, almost a year, and I gave up playing it that long. When the IS4 line came out, I stole the crew out of this to start the IS4 line. So then I had to restart a new crew, chuck it back in, and then carry on going up the line. So I've been doing this line since World of Tanks came out on console. Yeah, so let's start from back here. SU-85, pretty good tank for its tier, fairly fun. SU-100, exactly the same as SU-85, pretty good tank for its tier, and fairly fun. Both of these are actually quite mobile, really, yeah, in comparison. But then you get to the SU-152. It's a big, slow, fairly well armoured, very unmobile tank destroyer. You start off with the big, derpy 152mm howitzer, and then you can go up to the upgraded 122mm guns. Wasn't too bad. I chose to stick with the derp gun for most of the grind because it was funny. And then on to the tier 8 one, the infamous ISU 152 troll cannon. Let's have a look at the packages. Right, so again you start off with a crappy derp gun and you grind all the way up to the big BL-10, the troll cannon. This tank is actually pretty crap without this gun. This gun is what makes this tank playable, because you don't have the mobility and stuff like that to get into positions early and get into different positions and stay stealthy. You know what I mean? Stay mobile around the battlefield. With this thing, you have to try and make the most of every opportunity. So when you see a shot, you take it and hope the troll cannon trolls the enemy rather than you. And I got very bored with this tank, that's why I stopped playing it. So on to the 704. When it starts, yeah, it's pretty poo. You're back to that tier 7 howitzer. So I would recommend you save up the 19,000 free XP required to go to this package. That is all that's needed, because a lot of the parts, including the BL-10, so what gets upgraded there? Radio, engine, and the BL-10. So I would say you've probably used the engine and the radio before, and the BL-10 before, and it's probably just the engine you're paying for there, which is why it's so cheap. That's 19,000. I would heavily suggest not to play this tank like this, unupgraded. Save up 19,000 free XP and jump straight to this package. Ignore this package. Pointless, because you've still got the crap guns. There's no point being more mobile if you can't do any damage. Just go straight to there with your 19,000 free XP. That one will then be a free upgrade, so just research it, don't fit it. And then you can actually start doing some serious damage with this tank, and then at the end you just get slightly better tracks and a better radio. And you do need those tracks, do not skip this upgrade. This tank is playable here, but it becomes what it is with a little bit more track traverse here, which you would need, because remember this is a non-turreted tank destroyer, and if a light tank gets around you, you're basically reliant on your track traverse to save you, so it's quite important, that package. As you can see, I'm not quite at the 268 yet. It's 301,000 research points to get to tier 10 Russian tank destroyer. That is a big old grind, but I think it's worth it. The 704 is a good tank, and you can do some serious damage. I'm almost there, look, I'm nearly 239,000 XP after researching all this as well, so I've probably done maybe 300,000 XP on this tank already, if you take into account the upgrades. Yeah, so there's the line. There is another choice, which I've just started doing myself. This line gives up some of the sort of armour to be slightly more mobile and higher rate of fire DPM guns. So they are quite different, although they're both non-turret tank destroyers. So you'd really need, I would, if I was you, go to somebody else's channel, watch some 268 and 263 videos and see which one you prefer if you've not started these lines before. Because once you get past here, and if you don't like this tank, you've then got to go back to here and research. I think it was 48,000 extra research points you need to change lines again. So make your choice wisely about which line you want to go up. Right, so that's enough about the grind. Let's have a look at the packages again in a bit more in depth. So as I said, don't even bother this one, so we're not going to talk about it. Go straight up to here, about 19,000 XP. If you've obviously you will have fully researched all of the tanks in the previous line, you will have a lot of the modules, so it makes it quite cheap. So you get the BL10, the big gun, but we'll talk about the fully upgraded package. Right, so 700 horsepower engine, that's not bad at all. This thing does get around. The track traverse is not too bad with the upgraded tracks, but still only 22 degrees a second. I think it goes up from 18 on this one, or 19, so it's only an extra 3 degrees. But every degree a second helps when you're trying to fend off a sneaky light tank. Anyway, on to the best bit of this tank, the 152mm BL10, the troll cannon, infamous troll cannon. Penetrations and alpha damages are exactly the same as the tier 8 tank fitting this gun, but you did get a slight buff in the rate of fire to 3.51 rounds per minute. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you multiply 750 by 3.51, you do realise that this thing does have quite a bit of DPM actually, as long as you hit the shots. Remember, it's called the troll cannon, and it doesn't mean just trolling the enemy, sometimes it trolls you really bad. Anyway, aim time isn't actually that bad for a Russian tank at 2.9 seconds, but remember again, non-turreted tank destroyer. I don't think I run any equipment to adjust that because I always like my view range more, but 2.9 seconds, it's not going to be enough. Anyway, I'm not really helping, am I? And accuracy 0.38, again a slight buff from the tier 8, but not particularly good for a tier 9 tank destroyer. This is a big derpy tank. View range is okay at 390, so with binos you can definitely spot pretty much everything at the spotting cap. Right, so just a quick look into there. This tank is all about the gun really, and its troll armour. We'll have a look at the armour in terms of GEG in a minute. Let's have a look at the equipment I fitted. You may wish to choose something else. I went for rammer and ventilation because I always like to be able to put out as much damage in as the most short space of time as I can, but that's my personal preference. And I went for the binos. The camo value on this tank is above average, and if you fit the camouflage paint as well, I didn't feel any need to go for a camo net. But like I said, with any other previous non-turreted tank destroyer review I've done before, you spend a lot of your time turning the tracks anyway, barely long enough to get your binos up, so your camo net probably won't be activated for too long anyway, even if you did fit it. Right, crew skills. Like I said, I stole the crew out of this line for the IS4 line when it came out, so I had to start a new crew, so I didn't have particularly much. For this tank I would train camo, swap it to 6 cents, train camo, swap it to brothers in arms, then train camo and leave it, or train repairs and leave it. And once you've got these 4 basic skills, I would probably get the rest of the sneaky skills, the green thumb, and muffled shot, if you like to play tank destroyers in a sneaky way. If you like to be a bit active like me, I would probably go for track mechanic, off-road driving and clutch braking, just to make this thing as manoeuvrable as you can. And after that, just whatever you think is going to suit the way you play really. If you don't run binos, you're going to want the view range skills, just stuff like that. It's all common sense, guys, really. You don't really need me to tell you how to suck eggs. Anyway, that's enough of that. What else do we need to talk about? My supplies. Right, penetration is amazing. So a healthy stock of armor piercing. I do carry 8 premium shots for fighting things like mouses and stuff like that. You can bash through a mouse pretty reliably with the premium rounds. And also, my choice in this tank is to carry 8 high explosive rounds. Because of the caliber of the gun, if you do come up against the target for its hull down, you have absolutely no chance of penetrating. If you fire a couple of high explosive rounds at them, they'll either back off, or if your friendlies are also shooting them as well, there's a good chance you might finish them off. And also things like Waffenträgers, you should be able to 2-shot a Waffenträger with the high explosive rounds from this gun with some good rolls, which is not bad at all. And also light tanks. I tend not to use the high explosives for light tanks because I always get trolled by their tracks or something like that, because this tank is not that accurate. But if you do choose to use a high explosive round on most tier 7 and some tier 8 light tanks, you will one-shot them. But I find it quite hard to do myself, but you guys are a bit more skilled than me, maybe how to be accurate enough to get a penetrating shot with a high explosive. And also things like Lorraine's and AMX 5100s, their side armour is so thin you can totally overmatch them, meaning you can pen a pitchy shot no matter what angle you hit their side armour at. Anyway, standard consumables for me on this tank. I do not run any premium consumables on this. I don't feel the need. Right, again, customise. I would fit the paint, mine's run out. This does give you a little bit extra on your camo value, which will help in this tank because it has such good camo value in the first place. Anything you can do to improve it will help your gameplay more. And against poorly skilled crews, I've been down to 300 meters without any cover before getting spotted. So quite a sneaky tank, considering it is actually quite a big tank. Anyway, that's enough of me drivelling on about all that stuff. Let's go into tanks.gg and have a look at the armour before we go and see some gameplay. So here we are, guys, looking at the Object 704 using tanks.gg. Very helpful website. I suggest those of you who already haven't, go and have a look at this thing. Not all of the stats are the same because PC has had, they're a while in front of us, so they've had some buffs and stuff like that, which we haven't. So, but for things like gun constraints and looking at the armour models, very, very useful. Anyway, right, on to the gun constraints. As you can see, going to get very hungry again with this one. It's probably about a tenth of a pie all the way around. You have 11 degrees of gun traverse each way, so you have 22 degrees of gun traverse in total. So that's not that good. But it does have 6 degrees of gun depression. That is actually pretty good for a Russian tank, so you can't complain too much with that one. Anyway, so that's enough of that. Let's have a look at the 3D model. Here it is, loading in. So, as we mentioned at the start, the Object 704 does have some pretty good armour. It's made up of multiple components in multiple different angles, so whether you bounce the enemy shot really does rely on where they hit you with what type of round type. So let's have a look around this thing. Let's start off with the gun mantlet. It's looking pretty healthy, isn't it? Let's look at the numbers. Very big numbers. So the gun mantlet is pretty damn thick all of the way through. It's going to be impenetrable by most tanks bar tier 10 tank destroyers, properly firing premium ammunition. And I'm thinking about this tank's big brother, the Object 268, that has enough heat round penetration to pen this, but this is 160mm of space with 160mm behind, so hopefully the heat round would be soaked up by the spaced armour, so maybe that is impenetrable. Never know. Have to give it a go. There is this blue area behind the gun mantlet, but again, multiple layers of spaced armour, very well angled, impenetrable. Right, so onto the upper slab. It is one very large slab, fairly nicely angled. Could be doing with just being a little bit more laid back, but it's better than the tank before, this thing's predecessor. So let's have a look at the numbers. Wow, there we go. So you obviously know where to aim now. and that's probably the biggest target to hit anyway. This whole area here is 120mm slab of metal, but not very well angled, so the numbers all the way around here are going to be penetrable by pretty much every tank this thing can meet. So, what do you need to be doing between shots? Well, let's see if we back out at an angle, see what we can make these numbers up to. So, makes no ends whether you angle this thing or not, the front of this tank is probably going to get penetrated. Unless you back out at extreme angles, but even then people have got a good chance of going through, so that is actually quite a large target. So why does this thing troll people so much? Well, it's these bits on the edges. The gun mantlet and obviously the part underneath, very thick, and these parts on the edges, that's what trolls people. If they're inaccurate enough and they either hit this or this instead of this, that's when you get your funny bounces. So this bit is only 30mm of spaced, but there's nothing behind it from the front, it's just the spaced armour. So if it goes through there, all that's behind is spaced armour. So result even says at the bottom there, no damage. That is going to troll the hell out of people, especially if you are a little bit angled. There's a whole massive hitbox there, which is result either ricochet or no damage. So that's going to troll. What about these green bits on the side? They don't look very thick. That's only 90mm, but because of the ridiculous angling, brings up very good numbers. That's enough to bounce a tier 10 medium tank. And it's probably exactly the same the other side. Yeah. So, ideally with this thing, you don't want to get spotted, but that's not how I play it, and you're going to see in the gameplay in a minute. But that's only against the equal and lower tiers. If there's a lot of tier 10s in the game, i.e. Death Stars, Waffenträgers, probably best to try and stay out of the way. Lower plate's pretty good, 100mm, fairly well angled, so it's lower tiers you might troll them with that, but higher tiers, basically this whole front portion here, they're going to go through. Anyway, onto the sides. So as you can see here, this side part is actually made up of some different layers at different angles, along with the spaced armour, which we can see. So every tank you meet is going to be able to penetrate up there, but when you get to this bit the numbers get bigger. Still not ridiculous numbers, but it's that spaced armour again. If people fire heat at you, that should soak up all but the most high penetration heat rounds. And under here, again, not particularly thick, only 90mm, so light tanks, if you get the side of this thing, you're going to have to aim for these track spaces to have a chance. And also the tracks take up a lot of it, but that's quite big for track spaces. Some of the models don't even have track spaces, whereas this has quite large ones. So yeah, the side profile is not particularly good. Right, onto the back end. It's not actually that bad for a back end. 60mm, fairly well angled, but the numbers are tiny. And most tier 9s, tier 10s are going to be able to pen that with high explosive. Onto the worst bit, the top. Sky Pigs love this, 30mm, 30mm. They can hit that from any angle and overmatch it, so they only have to whiff the top part, and they're going to pen with HE and ruin your day. Right, so there we go. The armour model is not actually that good, but it does seem to work in action against equal and lower tiers. Tier 10s don't really have a problem. But then what tank destroyers do really have a chance against tier 10s these days. Tier 9 has become a very hard place to grind tanks these days, and I'm sure you'll probably agree with me. Right, so we've had a quick look at the 3D model, we've had a quick look at the gun constraints. It's kind of a mixed bag. Bit like the gun, sometimes it will troll people, sometimes it will troll you, and the armour's exactly the same. Sometimes it will troll others, and some days it will troll you. Right, there we go, quick look at that, on to some gameplay.
We've got enemies incoming. Either take them out or capture their base.
Right, here we go, gameplay time. Object 704 on Himmelsdorf, top tier game. There is a few top tier tanks, but not enough to warrant me being a bit of a wimp. So I'm going to go and see what trouble I can find right from the start. Not going to hang around at the back for this one. Like I said in the review, if there's things like, and there we go, outspotted a light tank. That is the camo value and a fully trained crew. Didn't have my binos operate either though, so that was the base view range with the brothers in arms, and the camo value defeated that light tank. Anyway, quick snapshot at the Jagd Tiger, and it misses unfortunately. So like I was saying, if you're in a tier 10 game, there's a lot of things like Waffenträgers, Death Stars. You do not want to be the first thing that gets spotted at all. Death Star is quite easily able to one-shot you, and a Waffenträger only has to hit you with 4 out of 6 rounds, and you are out of there. Anyway, so I missed that first shot. What else can we do? I noticed none of the team got up top from the start. Set me binos up, didn't see anything. Tiger 2's on Banana Road, so we're going to move over there. And there we go. One of our mediums parked out in the open got smashed by artillery. Yeah, so you can already see the mobility on the 704 is not bad at all. It's not like epic, but it's good enough to trundle around, sorting out little problems as you needed. The only problem is it's a non-turreted tank destroyer, so doing things like this, trying to get around a corner, you have to expose some tank to get around the corner. Track soak up that shot though, so we still have taken no damage. I say puts a round in, and then we finish that Tiger 2 with a nice turret shot. Although this gun is not particularly accurate, it has more than enough penetration to kill tier 8s easily. Tier 9s are not really that much of a problem, and still at tier 10 the standard rounds on this are normally good enough. Right, so that's that little problem sorted. Back over to the other side. What I didn't want to do was just stay over in that side and get in a bit of a long drawn out fight with loads of other tank destroyers and just trade health. It's not really a good way to start a game. One of our tier 8 tank destroyers has been mauled by 2 light tanks, so the next problem I need to deal with is them, otherwise we're going to have no artillery support whatsoever, and they're probably both going to come up behind me and give me some surprise bum love. Here we go, one of them's going to appear, it's time to set up. He makes the mistake of not looking at the map, whereas we looked at the map and we were ready for him. Right, so there's another light tank around. So what I do is get close to a building. Checking the map, seeing where he is, I see he's coming from behind. So staying near to the building. Here he is.
Ready to fire on target.
Rush that shot, miss him, but I do get a slight bit of damage from connecting with a ram. Bounce that shot, so I'm staying near the building. That does not give him the chance to get behind me. Almost reloaded. Didn't waste that one. Got to make sure this one hits. Bounce another shot. Bang. Almost one shot him. Finish him off with a ram. There we go. Another light tank dealt with. So numbers are pretty even at the minute. But there we go. We just lost another one. So we're actually down on numbers now. A lot of enemies on the hill. Saw an opportunity to shoot at that E75, but he trundled off a little bit before I could get set up. So what to do now? So they're coming down the back of the hill in quite a few numbers, and we don't have much over there. So time to put the mobility to work again and get into a position where I can support my team when I'm needed, rather than just sitting in the corner of the map waiting for him to come to me. If I'd have done that, if I'd have gone and sat out at K1, K2, I may have got a couple of shots off. But in the end, they'd have killed my whole team, come and found me when I was on my own, and been able to do nothing about it. But because I keep moving, keeping the enemies guessing, we're able to get little shots in like that, and they're not ready for it. Not that the IS-3 would have been able to do anything about me anyway. Penetration on this is more than enough. Rush that shot, but I had to let that shot go. The artillery would have died if I missed that shot, or didn't take the shot. I missed the shot, it dies anyway. But again, fairly good mobility on this tank. IS-3 can't get around me, and he's dead. So pull the numbers back a little bit. Oh, that's not a target you want to see. A Conqueror. I'm on the reload and he does some damage. It's the first bit of actual damage we've taken there. Trying to get in a position, like aiming a shot. Because of the alpha damage on this gun, always aim for engines, always aim for fuel tanks and ammo racks and stuff like that, and you will be rewarded. Yeah, like I was saying, because the alpha damage is so much, the modules within a tank have a certain amount of hit points. If you go above the amount of hit points with your damage, you will do at least a critical, or possibly even destroy that module. Like fuel tanks will cause a fire, and the engine got a good chance of setting a fire anyway. Yeah, so we didn't have to two-hit that Conqueror, we just needed the one. So that shot there was worth almost 1,000 hit points. Again, using the mobility, going to support this guy here, try to keep him alive, aiming up a shot. He dies, but it gives me an opportunity to get one shot away before the Jag Tiger manages to put a return shot in. And get my reload in again. It's all about the reloads. If you've not got one up the spout, you are useless. I'm going to take one here, but I've got the hit points. I looked after my hit points at the start of the game, so I have enough hit points now to soak up some damage whilst putting out the damage. Right, so just an E75 left on the enemy's team. Well, just an E75. Possibly the most powerful tank on the enemy's team is still left. So I can see down to the cap there, so he's not on the left hand side of the church, so he must be on the right. Our AT-15 is slowly trundling his way down to the cap, so I'm not going to rush in on my own. If I get flanked by the guy, it could be all over. Let's see if this AT-15's got anything about him, and we'll go in together. I'm not talking on voice chat, we're just kind of organising what we're doing. Oh, and winner! He hits me with high explosive and does minimal damage. The AT-15 is pushing in from the other side. He's doing some damage as well. Who cares if I take a hit? This guy's firing HE. He's an absolute moron and gifts me the 7th kill of the round. Let's have a look at the results. Go, tidy amount of experience for the daily double, not a huge amount of silver, but an acceptable amount. It's enough to continue your grind with. High caliber, only a mastery 1, a devastator and a top gun for 5,779 damage. And 7 kills. Not a mastery game, I have mastered this tank, but the gameplay from that video was actually quite boring. And this sort of replay kind of highlighted how I like to play this tank. It's got the mobility to be nowhere near an E25 at this tier, but you know what I mean. It's got enough mobility to outplay enemies rather than just sit in a bush and wait for them to come and find you. Right, so there we go. Not a huge amount of damage, but definitely carried this team. I say it had an okay game with 4,000 odd damage, but we done nearly 6k damage in just a few minutes and carried that team to victory. Well, there we go, tankers, end of the video. We've had a little look at the grind in the tech tree, we've had a look around the tank in the garage, we've also seen the armour profile and the gun constraints using TankShot GG, and a little bit of gameplay showing you how I choose to play this tank. You can be very active in this thing, but it also does the sneaky stealth tank destroyer role very well as well, because the camo value is so good. So it's entirely up to you whether you choose to play this line or not. However, if you're someone who doesn't get long to play on tanks throughout the week, it is a very long grind. So it's possibly not worth it for someone who only can do a couple of hours on tanks a week. It is a horrendously long grind, but I'm hoping the tier 10 is going to be worth it. Anyway, there we go, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please give it a like if you did. If you think I was inaccurate on any of the information, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next one. See you later.